Hello, this is Bill checking in on Paul McWhorter's Pico W class homework assignment number 28. The assignment was to use the wireless portion of the Pico W and set up a client-server network relationship and then come up with a project that would utilize that. And mine probably didn't have as much interaction as a lot, or maybe it could have, but mine encompassed a whole lot of stuff that we've done in the past. You can see I've got a photo on the lower right, and that probably explains a little bit of what this is. I use the SSD 1306 display. I use the DHT11 temperature and humidity sensor, and I used RGB LED. And what I was doing is I was plotting points, temperature points, and the server asks for input from the client. First of all, do you want to display this in temperature, the temperature in Fahrenheit scale or centigrade scale? And then it asks how often you want to plot a point. And for purpose of just watching this and doing it real quick, the quickest point I could get before the DHT11 screamed at me was half a second. And and so I had to add a float variable for that. But anyways, there are 128 pixels across. I used 10 in drawing the graph. You can't see F there because when I'm looking at this in the camera, when I was going to take a photo of it, there's a black band that cycles around in there in the horizontal plane. And anyways, but you can see that there are changes in the graph on this one. And the way I ended up doing that, well, first of all, if you do it in half-second interval, then it goes through the scale in 1 minute, and then it repeats. But it goes through the scale in 1 minute, and you don't get a lot of temperature fluctuations in 1 minute. But I think, I don't know what I did for this one. I think I plotted it like every 3 minutes or something like that. And the room that I'm in is on a west-facing side of the house with windows, and we get afternoon sun, and it gets warm in here, and it's pretty nice in the wintertime, but it gets warm in the summer. Anyways, so I had it there, and in order to get the graph to display temperature swings, I actually put the Pico in a little nylon insulated lunchbox with some frozen water bottles, and I would take the Pico in and out every now and again, and that's how I got those swings. And it's tough to see the peaks because it's cut off with that horizontal black band that goes across. But anyways, that's what I did. And again, you can see the math up there at the top. I think I explained that. I've gone through this a couple times trying to get this video going. Anyway, I am not displaying anything above this line 23. Hopefully not. That's where my secret code is, and or my password in the network. And I tried putting those in as a variable, and my password has characters that passwords like, but the Pico doesn't. And so anyhow, and if somebody knows how to set up secrets and stuff and import them, let me know. Going along down here, you know, and all that stuff up above there is, you know, time, import machine, DHT11 import, the SSD 1306 import, time, the RGB, you know, that kind of stuff. Pulse width modulation, although I don't think I needed it, I just had them full blast on what I did. But anyways, all this stuff, it looks like it's all for the banter between the server and the client. Down here, I thought there was a thing that I put in here. Maybe, oh, here it is down here. We were going through there, and Paul never put this line in here. He went as far as this line 64 and said, if you want to print, go ahead and print it. I printed it to see what it is, and it's goofy. It comes back with this B prime, which I'm not sure what that is, if it's hexadecimal or I don't know. I don't know what the B prime means. Maybe one of you guys do. But anyways, it prints it out, and I'll get this going. We can show you here. You know, one of the goofy things that I had going on, some issues I had, is the DHT11 is kind of a finicky thing. And so that seemed to work. But when I hooked it up to the server, I got everything working individually, and then I put it in the server program. And when I did that, then problems reared their head. And the DHT11 was one of them. And for some reason I got them working. One thing that I had problems with was the display, and that seemed to have some issues from my user input. Once you did the user input and it went back and forth on the client server thing, then that seemed to mess things up. You know, one thing I had is, for example, this line that's grayed out. I had display.text, then, you know, quotes, scale equals, and then I do the temp scale. Oh, well, that might be one of the problems there, but I don't think so. I did this enough times that I would have caught temp scale. I didn't get that thing working, and it also did the same thing when I did it on plot time, the interval and how often you're plotting stuff. But if I did display.text and did that, and then figure out how many pixels it is between to match up with the equals over here, did that, and then the same thing, enter plot time, and then I did the same thing in seconds. I guess I had this all in one thing, and that didn't seem to work either. So if there's something goofy going on, let me know. I honestly don't think it was that temp scale, because I tried it too many times, and I tried it not only with temp scale, but I tried it with plot time as well. So maybe I did, but I would have trouble believing I would make that mistake repeatedly. Yeah, here it is, the graphing interval between plots, and so here it's asking for the collection point time interval, and here it's waiting, and then once I do that, it actually goes back and forth on there, and tells you on the server as well as the client that data has been received, and this is just display stuff. Then I'm setting up the DHT11, I'm setting up the RGB, and yeah, here's the frequency stuff, you know, then here's the DHT sensor, and that's one finicky little command. For some reason I get more errors on that. Here's the math that I did for the graph display. Then we go, This kind of stuff for the scrolling on the temperature C and temperature F is just handier than heck. I wish there's a way that the SSD would do that. I don't know if there is or not. What I ended up having to do to get around that was I figured out where the Fahrenheit was, and I made a box around there. And this must be the same thing with humidity. And I drew a box around there, and you ended in 0 and 0, so that makes it that erases the area in the rectangle, and then you have to put show in there, and that's kind of a command you get tired of doing because you think it should just do it just by that one command, but whatever. Anyways, you put in show, and then you display stuff. Oh, and then you have to do those as strings, and you know, what was that? It was up around 72. Did I mention it in this version? One thing that was handy that I ended up doing was this type. There's a command you can print, and I'm asking for temp scale, and then I put here's the command, type temp scale, that variable, and it tells you if it's an int or a string or probably a float, and then I had it print out temp scale, and so the actual value there. And you had to go back and forth in ints and strings for the SSD display, and then also to have it plot the points on the graph, which was a little goofy. Anyways, I got off track here. Let's get down. And then here's the temp scale, and then here's the LED. You know, it's full blast blue if the temperature is on the cooler side. If it's in the mid-range, it prints green. If it's on the warm side, it prints red. And then if the graph goes beyond the 127 pixels, or equal to, I guess, or beyond 127 pixels. Yeah, well, it's 127 because it starts at 0. So yeah, that would be the last pixel. And then the graph equals 10, and like I said, 10 is the y-axis, so we're losing some of those. And then dispense fill. I don't have a show after that. I wonder if I need it, or maybe I've got one up at the top. I don't know. Anyways, that's the program, and let's actually see if I can get this to run. Hopefully it'll hook up. Waiting for connection. It connected. Let me turn on the camera because this thing, for some reason, always stops on me. Okay, yeah, so there's the math, and I'm getting the temperature display out of the ice, and you can see there we go. Enter T or F. Actually, that's wrong right off the bat. That should be a C or an F. And I'll go and change that. Yeah, you can see down here I've got F or C, so we'll go C. I'll put that in the client as lowercase, but hit return, and you can see it changes that to the uppercase. So uppercase or lowercase would work. And there's what the Pico's doing. It says, okay, we selected scale C. Now enter plot time. I'll go 1. So it'll plot every 1 second. And then the plot time says it's 1, and that'll display for about 5 seconds on a sleep. And then that should go off, I hope, yeah. And that's going. You can see this is all the stuff that was on the server, and you know, where am I talking about? There was, oh, there's that, like that B prime and C prime. I'm not sure what that stuff is. You can see it's printing out Fahrenheit. I just did that because it was stuff I was looking at before. I really don't need that. However, it might be nice if that would have printed out down here. I just have that in a loop, so you know, we could do the scale again. So anyways, that's been long enough that you can see it's cool. We've got a green light. I just took it off the ice, and you can see the graph is actually rising. Right now, this is actually plugged into the computer. Oh, and this is goofy. I'm actually having to use two different computers. Bogeyface said that you can hit run simultaneously displays on the Thani, and it's got that button, but it doesn't allow you to actually do that. So this was kind of confusing. I actually had to use two different computers to make this work, and you can see the displays going up, and it's 25C, and the humidity is 12. But anyways, that's plugged into the computer, and you can see I unplug that. We do that, and Paul said we can use batteries. We don't need no stinking USB cable. Well, I'm going to say we don't need no stinking batteries. Let me set this down, get this thing going. Let me plug this bad boy in. Okay. We're going solar. And so that connects. Let me restart the client, and let me pick the F scale this time. And so we picked F, plot time. We'll go again 1 second. Return. It's doing the 1 second. It's doing that for a minute. Oh, this went through pretty fast, but this actually did display the, yeah, you can see it's warming up quite a bit. So that went from green to red right away, and it's starting to plot points. So anyways, that's my homework. We'll touch base with you guys tomorrow. We'll see you. It does probably pass a lot of your guys' bedtime. Okay, bye for now.